What's up, guys? It is your boy, Samoan Fan 101, and today, finally, after weeks of procrastinating, saying I was going to do it, end up not doing it on the days that I said I would do it. I said I would do it on Sunday. It is now Thursday. And finally, we are finishing up, at least as of now, up until episode 9, we are finishing up Star Wars Mania with Solo, a Star Wars story. Now, unlike all the other films, I actually compiled a list of notes because unlike most of the Star Wars movies I reviewed up till now, this one was very hard to pin down whether or not I liked it or not. And thankfully, unlike with The Last Jedi, I was not angry with this movie as I was watching it. Unlike with Last Jedi, I was getting more and more furious. I actually compiled a list of things, of notes that I wrote down. And even split, which can probably give you an idea of what the rating is going to be like. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Hang on a second. About 8 notes each. 8 notes, 8 pros, 8 cons. So, at least I know I have a little bit more of a, a list I can actually, write down and stuff. But yeah, let's get into things here, shall we? Solo Star Wars story, of course. This was released last year in May, which used to be the time frame for all the Star Wars movies until Disney, of course, bought the franchise and started releasing films in December. Now, I actually would not have minded that because, coming back to May, because, it's Solo, it's an original series character. Let's go back to something that the character is also somewhat familiar with. I don't mind that whatsoever. What I do mind, however, is the fact that this movie came out after Last Jedi. Now, look, I was not paying attention because I just wasn't paying attention to the culture war at the time. I didn't know when this film was coming out. So when I looked on Wikipedia one day in the films of 2018 and this showed up in May instead of December, I was floored. And I said, and it was like a month or two before the film came out, and I said, okay, unless this film is really, really good, I'm not going to go and watch it in theaters. And that's exactly what happened. I did not go and watch the movie in theaters. That is exactly what took place. Not because, of my hatred for Last Jedi, as keep in mind, I didn't hate Last Jedi back then. I still loved it back then. Now I hate it, but I still loved The Last Jedi back then. But I just didn't see it because, I didn't have much time. This was one of those, dull periods where I just wasn't going to see films, with the exception of Avengers Infinity War. It's the only film I saw for a while. But after that, it was just nothing. And Solo was one of them. I just wasn't interested in seeing it. And clearly, a shit ton of people were not interested in seeing it, as it was the first Star Wars movie to lose money in all of history. The first one to lose money. Not even Clone Wars lost money, and that was that movie's budget was pretty much a paper bag in the food that was put in it. An analogy, obviously, but you get what I mean. Okay. Before I go into the plot, I gotta go into the behind the scenes, because this is part of the reason why this film failed. This film was originally directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. If you don't know who they are, Phil Lord and Chris Miller are the masterminds behind several movies that you may be familiar with. More specifically, they were the ones that made the ever so successful and popular Lego movie. But they made other movies too. They wrote and directed the first Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They helped do the story and the producing for the second Cloudy Meatballs film. They directed 21 Jump Street as well as 22 Jump Street. Of course, they did the Lego movie. And recently, at least they wrote and produced Lego Movie 2. They did not come back to direct it. But But they were known to do other stuff. For example, they were still called executive producers into Solo: A Star Wars Story. I wonder how they feel about that. And Phil Lord, while both of them did produce, Phil Lord specifically wrote, or at least helped write, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which of course was a fantastic film, and quite possibly the best Spider-Man film ever, but that's a story for another day. They've done some other stuff, but these are basically the movies. So, an accomplished pair. And these guys work very well with comedy, although, as the writing Into the Spider-Verse showed us, they're also very good at drama as well as comedy. Well, someone who wasn't behind whatever vision this was supposed to be was, I was about to say Dixie Carter. No, definitely not Dixie Carter. But Kathleen Kennedy, she might as well be Dixie Carter at this point, actually. But Kathleen Kennedy, who, of course, is the president of Lucasfilm, she replaced them when the film, depending on when the numbers you hear, it's either 70% done or 90% done. Whatever the number was, most likely it's somewhere in between. Whatever the number was, the film was very close to being complete, in terms of complete in filming. And Kathleen Kennedy saw the movie for the most part, wasn't happy with what they were making, and so basically, and I'm making things blunt here, because of course they're going to be politically correct. They're going to be politically correct on Wikipedia as well, because it's kind of how they are. They don't want to go, they're just stating facts. Fact is, they got fired. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they got fired and were replaced by Ron Howard. Now, for those of you who don't know who Ron Howard is a longtime director who's made many films. He directed a bunch of movies going back to 1977. Actually, he made Apollo 13. He made a movie called Willow. His first ever movie was actually, funny looking back, Grand Theft Auto, which he both directed and wrote, which is hilarious because we have a Grand Theft Auto game. I'm curious which idea came first. He directed the live action How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which not exactly an amazing movie, but I grew up with it, and it's part of the reason why I do kind of still like it. And in recent years, I say recent, he made Cinderella Man, the 2005 movie, not the one from back in the day, The Da Vinci Code, which came out in 2006, and the last couple films he made were Rush, In the Heart of the Sea, and Inferno, before he directed, I should say, Solo: A Star Wars Story. You're probably thinking, well, he made a lot of films going back a ways, and it might be good, right? Here's the thing with Ron Howard, and I've seen at least images, and I've heard from people who viewed his other work. From what I hear, at least in recent years, not back in the day, but in the last decade or so, Ron Howard's work has not been exactly the most pleasing to the eye, so to speak. There's nothing visually interesting about his work. It can be boring at times. And yeah, there were moments in this film where I kind of felt that too. I felt the Ron Howard, the Ron Howard-ness of the movies. And, well, damn, we're already 9 minutes in. I'm only talking about the director. Well, might as well continue with the backstage stuff. I gotta get into it because I gotta show why this film didn't make that much money. Of course, it was produced by Kathleen Kennedy as well as these two other schmucks, Allison Schirmer and Simon Emanuel. That nobody cares. Based on George Lucas's Han Solo, obviously. Not. But no, I gotta say this. This is the other part of the thing I gotta address. Now, I'm not saying one of them is not talented. This film was written by John and Lawrence Kasdan, Of course, if you don't know who Lawrence Kasdan is, if you skip this part, and you probably will still skip it, then Lawrence Kasdan was the one who wrote Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. At least he helped co-wrote it, because George Lucas helped write alongside him. And you're probably thinking, how could Lawrence... I mean, like, this is not... It's not bad, but the writing here is not up to snuff with other Lawrence Kasdan work. So why would that happen? Well, you see that, and I'm like, man, Lawrence, you're losing your touch. Actually, he's not. Because you're looking at the behind the scenes, and I actually have the notes, I have a couple online notes right here. Apparently, what happened was, George Lucas, he was actually beginning to develop a Han Solo prequel film. You know, he started that development way back in 2012. Now, if you remember, it was later that same year that George Lucas sold the rights of Star Wars and Lucasfilm to Disney and put Kathleen Kennedy in charge of Lucasfilm. Kasdan was hired to write The Force Awakens, which, of course, in my opinion, was the critically the best of the new Disney Star Wars films up to now. Sorry, it's getting us not late, but you know I've been up for a while. And John Kasdan was basically left to complete the script. So what basically happened was one guy was writing the script. He took off because he was offered another bigger, more immediate job. And his son was left to finish the rest of the script. Whether or not, Lawrence Kasdan ever came back to help write the rest of the script, I'm not sure of that. If he didn't, then that could actually explain some of the problems that I had in this film, in terms of the writing. So, yeah, let's just get into this. I'm sick of waiting anymore. I've already stretched things out enough. Let's get right into this. So the movie starts out with a young Han Solo on the planet Corellia, which I've heard the name Corellia before in other Star Wars media. This is actually the first time I'm seeing it, unless I'm forgetting like one of the games or something. So correct me on that if it wasn't one of the games. Basically, Han Solo, as well as a girl named Kira, played by Emilia Clarke, of, you know, Games of Thrones fame, they try to escape from a gang after supposedly Han Solo does some shit to get himself in trouble. They try to bribe an Imperial officer with coaxium, which is basically hyperspace fuel. Basically, it powers the hyperdrives of all the ships and can allow you to go to hyperspace. Obviously. So they use it to get a bribe, to bribe themselves, you know, into the, out of Corellia. But on their way out, Kira is captured by the gang they're trying to escape from, that they're basically child slaves to. Han, of course, vows to return to her, but to do that, he joins the Imperial Navy as a flight cadet. Because, of course, his whole thing is flying. Now, and when he... God. When he goes... I still remember this. I can't believe they did this. When he goes to the Imperial officer... Apparently he does not have a last name. His name is only Han. So the officer gives him the last name Solo. Something that I think is completely stupid. Look. What? Star Wars has had dumber names in the past. Why did you give him the name Solo? Why couldn't that just be his actual name? Why? That to me was stupid. 3 years go by. Han Solo was expelled from the flight academy because apparently, you know, they think he's a jackass when really he's just trying to do his job and do the right thing, which goes to part of the reason why this film is not as great as it should be, as it could have been. And is serving on a planet called Mimban. It's like a World War I style fight And during the fight, he encounters like a group of criminals posing as soldiers so they can do something. He wants to leave the planet. He attempts to blackmail them, taking it, into taking him with them and just getting the hell out of Dodge. But then, of course, the main guy, Beckett, who's played by the great Woody Harrelson in this movie, is, of course, he's wearing a higher ranking, like a captain's uniform, and Han Solo's thrown into a pit with a beast, which turns out, of course, to be Chewbacca. Most people could have predicted this. When they said beast, I'm like, it's probably Chewie. And it was. They fight for a little while. It's very gray, very dark, which is probably one of the problems with the movie. Sorry. Anyway, they fight, then they get friendly with each other because Han does speak a little bit of Wookiee. They then pretend fight, and in order to escape the cage, they, pretend fight and break down one of the pillars, and they escape along with Beckett, as Beckett, very aware of a Wookiee strength, and even his alien friend is like, yeah, let's bring him with us. Even though his woman's like, nope, he does it anyway, and he brings him along with him. They go to steal a shipment of coaxium from this one planet that I don't even know what it's called. I honestly have completely forgotten. Let's see here. And it's, I think, is it on the same planet? Oh, here it is. Vandor 1. Never heard of it. Probably will never hear of it again. Moving on. They try to steal coaxium. You're kidding me. See, this is why I don't usually do audio videos 2 times in one day. But I have to because I'm leaving the next day for a wedding all weekend. So I won't be able to make any videos that time except for maybe with my phone. Anyway. So they try to steal the coaxium. Everything seems to be going okay. But shit goes wrong. Cloud Riders, led by this one character named Infernus, they arrive, they stir shit up, they kill the alien friend, who's played by Jon Favreau, in case you're wondering, and they kill Beckett's wife, who in this movie is played by Thandie Newton, who's a pretty good actor, or actress, and even escaping, they can't even get the coaxium. Apparently, and Beckett reveals this once the coaxium was destroyed, the shipment was for a guy named Dryden Voss, played in this movie by Paul Bettany, the same guy who plays Vision in the Marvel films. And apparently, they were, it was basically to get it was a job for Crimson Dawn, which is what Dryden Voss runs, at least part of Crimson Dawn. And of course, they failed. And while Beckett goes to talk to Dryden Voss my mind is going here. When she goes to talk to Dryden Voss, who does Han Solo come across? Kira. So yes, the main motivation for Han Solo doing everything that he's doing to get a ship, to go back to Corellia and rescue his girl is already there. This is where the writing becomes a tad bit inconsistent. And I'll get to that later with my notes. So they go, and Han comes up with a plan to get, because the idea is to get stabilized coaxium. What about unstabilized coaxium? They go, along with Kira, who's sent by Dryden Voss, to get the unstable coaxium. And in order to do this, they enlist the help of Lando Calrissian, who, of course, has the fastest ship in the world, the Millennium Falcon. This is back when Lando still had the Falcon. And, a game of sabacc happens, which is basically like Star Wars poker, so to speak, with a different way. From what I heard, they actually legitimately had to create a new type of game, which, credit to the makers of the film. That had to have been tough to do. But, they did. And they're able to take the Falcon. Lando has a droid, L3-37, which I will fucking rip to shreds later on. They go to a planet called Kessel, And if that name is familiar, you know exactly what's about to happen. And Lando's droid starts a revolt because apparently Lando's droid is all about freeing other droids from a stasis of slavery and of forced work, even though they're robots and that's kind of what they're supposed to do. But we'll just run with it for now because I will fucking rip this thing to shreds. Anyway, she gets blasted to bits, but they're able to get the coaxium and leave Kessel, but they have to go through the Kessel Run in order to get away from an Imperial blockade. And they come across a giant-ass, a squid-looking creature with a shit ton of tentacles. They actually find a way to get out of the Kessel Run and go to a planet called Savarine, which is basically a place to process the coaxium and make it, well, stable, make it good. And by the way, they had to do this when L3's navigating computer, well, she died, but they used her head to make it a because she was always the navigator. But now they put the navigation system in the ship itself, which is kind of neat. And it actually kind of explains why they call it a her. They always call the ship a her. But to me, I always felt that part didn't really need to be explained because it's like, well, guys call things her all the time. I mean, look at all the guys that call their cars her. Like, don't damage my baby. It's like, you didn't need to do that. But, okay, that's a minor thing. I'm not even going to point that as a negative. It's just one of those minor little things. Just, it drives me up a wall. I'm sorry. So here's the thing. So the Falcon, I will say this, though. The Falcon, which used to be a pristine condition, was what looked like a piece of shit once it got to Savarine. And, Lando, was obviously pretty peeved about it. Infernus shows up along with the Cloud Riders. Infernus reveals that he is in fact a she. I will fucking tear this to shreds later, I promise. But they reveal though that they're not pirates, but in fact they're rebels trying to defeat Crimson Dawn from gaining power. Because thanks to Crimson Dawn, that some shit happened to them, and now they're just like, want revenge. And of course, Solo, Kira, and one other guy, or Chewie probably, they come up with a plan. Woody Harrelson's character, Beckett, rats him out to Dryden Voss. Voss sends his guards to kill the Enfys Nest, but Enfys has a trap for them because Han Solo, in fact, saw this shit coming and allows Beckett to betray Dryden Voss and steal the coaxium for himself. Kira and Han get into a fight with Dryden Voss, and after they kill him, Han goes after Beckett, while Kira takes the ship, which belongs to Dryden Voss, and contacts his superior, Darth Maul. And I'll get to the awesomeness, though, later. To inform him of all the shit that went down with the mission, and pretty much never mentions Han, which basically means that Darth Maul should have no reason to go after Han Solo, and tells her to come back to Dathomir, which we'll probably never ever see because this film did not make money. Meanwhile, Han catches up to Beckett, shoots him before because a common theme, the theme of this movie is look out for betrayal. It always happens. Never trust anybody but yourself. And he dies. Kira takes the ship, leaves in Voss's yacht. They call it a yacht. It's really just a long-ass looking ship, like a singular. And Han and Chewie are offered a chance to join the rebellion against the Empire. He declines. She gives him a vial of coaxium, and instead, Han bets it, makes a fool out of Lando Calrissian, wins the Millennium Falcon, and they go and fly the ship towards Tatooine, where apparently a crime lord is putting together a job. Obviously, this is alluding to Jabba the Hutt, and probably a long-time relationship with them. That was a chore to recap. And it probably goes to show you exactly this level of disinterest in this film. I'm already 25 minutes into it. I'm going to try to make this as fast as possible because unlike all the other reviews, I actually have notes this time. Let's get through the good stuff first. There is good stuff in this film. First of all, most of the acting... I have like a really scratchy nose. Like I want to like blow my nose. I don't know what it is. It's like I'm about to sneeze, but it's not. It hasn't even developed yet, but it's right there. The first thing is good acting. Not all, but most of the acting in this movie is pretty good. Of course, some of the vets you would expect to have good acting, such as Woody Harrelson, Paul Bettany, even some of the minor characters, not all the acting is good. There is some that are not that good. Jon Favreau as Rio Durant, he was the four-armed alien dude who worked with Beckett. Ray Park, apparently in the Darth Maul cameo, he returned as Darth Maul. With Sam Witwer, who of course played Darth Maul in the TV shows, and as well as played Galen Merrick, Starkiller, in the Force Unleashed games. He came back to voice the character once again. Weasel, remember Weasel from Phantom Menace? The Weasel character came back. If you have no idea who the hell that is, he's the Warwick Davis, the famous midget actor. He played Wicket the Ewok in Episode 6. He played Weasel in Episode 2. He played a couple different costumed characters in the newer films. Episode 7, Episode 8, Rogue One. And the Weasel character from Episode 1 came back in this film, which I find is hilarious. If you have no idea who Weasel is, remember in the Episode 1 pod race, when Sebulba at one point is cheering on, you see the white guy who looks like he's on a lower chair sitting next to him. He's not on a lower chair. That's Warwick Davis as Weasel. If you remember that movie like I do, you'll know Warwick Davis. Jonas Suotamo, who started playing Chewie again after Episode 7 full time because Peter Mayhew, his legs, I think he had like knee replacements. He just couldn't move around the same anymore. It sucks. Fandy Newton as Val was very good. The two surprises, and I should say the two standouts, maybe not standouts, but the two surprises were Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo and Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. Now, with both of them, they did the smart thing. With Alden Ehrenreich, they did the smart thing of not trying to be too much like Harrison Ford in Harrison Ford's Han Solo. Because had he tried to be that way, the movie would have failed spectacularly and nobody would have bought it. Thankfully, what they did was he turned the Han Solo character his own. That way, it's not nearly as glaring because of how different he is from the Han Solo that we know, because it's meant to be a different Han Solo, which, in terms of the acting and the attitude of the character, that I could see. Donald Glover, they made the right choice with by making him as much as similar to Billy D. Williams as they possibly could. In fact, Billy D. Williams actually gave Donald Glover advice on how to go about the character, which is which is cool that Billy D. Williams did that for Donald Glover. And so they made the character very similar to Billy D. Williams, but while still making him just a little bit different so he could be not a complete ripoff. So I appreciated those two things. There are a couple of other actors that didn't do so great here, but I'll get to them in a second. The other thing this is pretty much a given. Special effects. Special effects for Solo were very good. Not always amazing. I think they did better CG with the tentacle creature. But for the most part, the special effects in this movie were very good. I think I like the coaxium effects the best. And I know it's such a minor effect, but I think the effects they did for coaxium, whether when it was red, it was blue, I somehow like that the best. I don't know what it is. Although another really, really good effect was the whole train sequence. That effect was awesome, I will say. The train sequence when they're trying to steal the coaxium the first time, that effect was cool. I said this, I kind of mentioned this to the acting, but the movie did have a good supporting cast. It's not that the acting itself was good. I genuinely, you could have good acting and still have bad characters. Look at Last Jedi. But I genuinely liked some of these characters. The four-armed alien dude, what's his name again? Rio Durant, and yeah, part of this is Jon Favreau. But he gives a big likability to the character. Val's not in this movie very long, but she feels like a real character. Solo. You know, a couple, other minor characters, some of them do work. You know, especially Tobias Beckett, who, you know, he works in the sense that he's supposed to be based on Long John Silver from Treasure Island, believe it or not. And you'd say he's supposed to teach Han Solo to do all these things, but apparently most of these things Solo already knows how to do. You know, being in the Empire and whatnot. But yeah, and he was probably the best actor in this movie, let's face it. By far and away, best actor in this movie. Another thing, and I'm going in the list of orders here, so, you know, keep in mind that this seems out of order. The Darth Maul cameo. Darth Maul cameo was pretty awesome, I gotta say. It was only for like a minute, but the Darth Maul cameo was enough to, like, okay, when there's something stupid, think of the Darth Maul cameo, because it friggin' rules. I mean, they knocked that scene out of the fucking park. You know, Samuel Witwer was great in the voice acting of Darth Maul. God, what's his name? Ray Park. He was able to move. He barely even moved. He sit down, then he stood up. But the way he moved, the way his little ticks felt very much like Darth Maul, the Darth Maul of old from Phantom Menace, which was very cool to see. So it was, and as a fan of Darth Maul, it was fun to watch. The Kessel Run sequence. I enjoyed the Kessel Run sequence a lot. Could it have been more visually interesting? Yes, it could have. But the Kessel Run sequence itself and how they did it and how they escape it, I think did it go on too long? Maybe a little bit. But I did like how they did it. I did like all the little twists and turns that they made with it. It was very fun to go through. It was very entertaining. The movie had good action. I don't really have anything else to say much more there other than the fact they had some pretty good action. I did like the idea of Infernus and how they were always a thorn in Crimson Dawn's side. I did really enjoy that. And, yeah, I did really enjoy that. And up until the unmasking, it was revealed it was a woman, and then how they tried to turn it down from then on was shit. But I'll get to that when I get to it. And the last thing, and I just wrote this down before I did the review, because I did have to keep this in mind. The movie was entertaining. Even when it was dumb, the movie could still be entertaining. It kind of has the Venom effect, where you know the movie you're watching is stupid, but you can't help but sit back and enjoy it because it is entertaining. Hang on a second, I gotta get some water. Sorry about that. My throat was just killing me, so I had to get some water. all my water bottles just disappeared, so in my rush, I grabbed a cup. I couldn't even bring this, and this is whatever. It's empty. So the movie is entertaining. Like I said, it's got the Venom effect where you know it's dumb, but it's entertaining to watch. To be fair, it can be not always, but whenever it does get entertaining, it is kind of exciting to watch. Now let's get into some of the shit. Now with the pros, I went down the list. The cons, I might be a little bit different too. Because I need to get to some other things first. Let's get to some of the easy stuff. A lack of any real environment. The one thing that every single, with the exception of Clone Wars, but even Clone Wars kind of had this. In terms of live action films, I should say, every single Star Wars film up until this point had, even when it was good or when it was bad, it always had one thing going for it. That is visual storytelling, specifically in the environment. Not that it was always bad here, but even films like The Last Jedi, and I absolutely hated Last Jedi. But the one thing, and one of the few things I gave the film real credit for, and I watched the behind the scenes later on the Blu-ray, they put a shit ton of effort in order to make the environments and the look of the film visually interesting. They did do a good job of that, I will say. It was visually intriguing to look at. The way they shot Crate, not so much when it looked like Hawk, but when it was all stained blood red, even though it really wasn't red, but when it was, there was damage to it, it looked kind of cool. Even Last Jedi had some good visual interesting spots. Solo is, it sucks that I have to say this, Solo is the first film that doesn't really have much visual interesting in terms of its flair. It has none of that. And I think part of that has to go down to Ron Howard. Ron Howard is not known to be one of the most visually interesting directors, at least not in recent years. I'm not saying he makes bad movies, but in terms of some parts being a little bit more boring than others, yes, he from what I heard, he's known for that. And if that's indeed true, it definitely shines in this film, because some environments work, like the beginning sequence on the planet, like that's like a World War I homage. I did enjoy that, like how muddy and rainy it kind of is and dark. That I enjoyed. I liked, the underground area where Lando and Han met for the first time. I'm like, yeah, I would expect them to meet in a place like this as their first meeting. That part they got right. Couple of mountain shots when they were in the snowy mountains in the Vandor 1, which I apparently had to look up the name. But aside from that, a lot of the film just did not look visually interesting. Corellia was not that interesting. The Kessel mines were not visually intriguing. Savareen, which is where they went for the climax of the film, was not visually interesting. It looked like a cliff with a barely an oasis whatsoever at the end, in the middle of the desert. That's basically what it looked like. Even the Kessel Run, and I sit here and I say I enjoyed the Kessel Run sequence, but the one thing I didn't like about it was the fact that it wasn't that visually interesting, at least in the beginning, with the little circular hole that looked like the devil's anus from Thor Ragnarok. Don't read too much into that. They wish they could go to friggin' Thor Ragnarok, but no. They went through the little hole where the Empire ship was, and even when they went off, we didn't get to see much visual flair because the film didn't allow us to see visual flair up until the red volcanic looking vacuum with the vacuum. That I didn't. Up until then, it wasn't visually interesting. After that, it was with the visual vacuum and how they escaped. It was cool. But before that, not so much. Lack of any real story direction. Now, this also goes to another point I have. It's a 2-for-1 point. Lack of real story direction and lack of chemistry. And I'll get to both, and I'll get to the reasons why. I say lack of real story direction because what's the reason, I mean, initially, why Han Solo wanted to do what he did? To rescue his girl from the planet Corellia and get the hell out of there and live whatever life they wanted to. Kira was already on Dryden Voss's ship, so any real motivation that Han Solo had up until that point was gone, and now the plot was basically trying to find motivation for him to do stuff, or trying to just keep him going. So it did have that. It made it kind of all null and void, almost. And it leads me to my second point, the chemistry between Han Solo and Kira. I didn't mention this as part of... I said most of the acting was good. There was some acting here, that a little bits of acting here that just did not point my way. One of them was Emilia Clarke as Kira. And I'm starting to see a little bit of... not backlash, but a little bit of warning signs for Emilia Clarke. Because Emilia Clarke is known for her role on Game of Thrones. She's very well known for that role. But it seems whenever she keeps going outside of Game of Thrones into major motion picture franchises, she always fails. Terminator... Now, I don't know whether or not this is her agent or whatever. But Terminator Genesis, where she was Sarah Connor, a big role, but yet the film sucked. Then there was Solo, a Star Wars story. She was Kira. And she was underwhelming. And the thing that both of these movies have in common is that they're both big picture franchises, and B, both of them are just, she's not that interesting of a character. She wasn't that interesting in Terminator Genesis. In fact, many people would say she was the weakest character. And Kira, out of the main characters at least, was kind of weak. She wasn't nearly as bad as she was in Terminator Genesis, mind you. But I'm just getting the feeling that she just does not work well in the context of these films, and that's kind of scary because I think she has talent. But is it really her fault, or is it the fault of the people who made the film? Either way, she's part of two big name projects that flopped, or that did not do good at all. And we're starting to see a pattern with that, and that's kind of scary. So Emilia Clarke did not impress at all, and that's part of the... And not to say she was bad. Honestly, I kind of liked her best when she was acting like a younger kid in the beginning. It's when she was the adult, the older adult character version, which was the most of the film. That's when she really did not become that interesting. She wasn't horrible. She was just meh. I guess that's the best way to put it. Just meh. Okay at best. But that also plays into the other aspect. The chemistry between Han Solo and Kira is just not there. Again, kind of there in the beginning, but they're younger, so they're supposed to be playing younger selves. As the adults, I did not believe these two were truly an item. If anything, they wanted to have sex. But I didn't think these two were truly an item watching this movie, for two reasons. One, there just wasn't that much going on really between them. Like, talks about what happened. I mean, there was a brief talk, but that was only like one scene. But the other reason is that we know Han Solo is going to hook up with Princess Leia. Why are we giving him a love interest now when we know he's going to hook up with someone else? This isn't Indiana Jones or James Bond, where he might stick with a woman in the next movie, but most likely he won't. We already know the path of Han Solo. Just tell a basic story without having to complicate things with a love interest that nobody will care about because we already know what happens. That's the dangerous thing about putting in a legacy character. So there's 3 right there. 5 more bits. Bad lighting. I gotta mention this. Bad lighting. The film did not have good lighting. This goes back to the lack of environments. So some of these are interconnected, but they also stand out on their own. Some of these films suffer from bad lighting. Like, for example, when they're going to find the Millennium Falcon, right when they meet up with L3 and Lando Calrissian, several bits of bad lighting. And it really shows. It really shows. Because it's like, I can't see shit. The mines on Kessel The same thing. There were several times where I'm like, I can't see a damn thing what's going on. I can't really see much. That was my reaction the first time I saw this film. The second time I saw the film, which is seeing it for the review, I could see more of it. That's because I was actually paying attention and not in a room where a bunch of light was coming into the room. But still, the lighting was not there. And again, Star Wars was always known for being visually interesting, and that included always having good lighting, no matter whether it were dark places or light places. It always had some kind of atmosphere. The lighting did not match the atmosphere in this film, and it kind of shows when you're watching the movie, and a part of the time you're thinking, what the fuck is going on? I can't see a damn thing. So there's that. Let's see here. 1, 2... Okay, get into this one. Han Solo is not that much of a rogue. Pointing it out right there. Han Solo is played more of as the good guy with an edge. That's kind of who he's supposed to be. He's a good guy with an edge. He's not supposed to be he's not the rogue that we expect him to be. And not rogue as in like a rebel, like from Rogue One. No, I'm talking rogue as in like a guy who doesn't listen to anybody. He's not always a good person. No, you never get that. And while Alden Ehrenreich does his best, in terms of the writing of the character, you never get the real sense that that Han is this smuggler who will kill anyone and anything in order to get away, except for Chewie, because of course they're buddies. He was not that kind of guy in this movie. Instead, he was a guy who tried to do the right thing and tried to save people that he was working with, that he maybe or maybe not didn't really like. I don't know. I'm not sure. And yeah, he got the cynical side. He got the smugness behind him. But in terms of the rebel part of him, in which he's supposed to be more of not exactly an outcast, but more of a guy who doesn't really give a shit what you think. And keep in mind, Episode 4, I'll put this in this perspective. Episode 4, New Hope, he had to be bribed with money in order to save Princess Leia. In this film, he'll just save people left and right. I'm like, come on, we need to have a little bit of the original Han Solo in the writing. Forget the acting. The writing. It just wasn't there for the Han Solo to be that. He is still enjoyable in this movie, don't get me wrong. But one of the biggest key aspects of Han Solo in his early days was that he was very stubborn, and that he didn't really listen to people. In this movie, he listens to people, he either listens to people when he wants to, or he's just kind of not a smug jackass. It's not that great. I don't know what it is. It's not a perfectly written character. Well acted, not the best well written. And I have to put that blame on John Kasdan. I'm sorry. I don't know, or maybe it was forced on them by the studios. I don't know what happened. Hopefully John Kasdan will do much better with Ghostbusters 3. No, he's not doing Ghostbusters 3. What the fuck am I talking about? Okay. Pretend I never said that, because that's stupid. He is not doing Ghostbusters 3. Ivan Reitman's son is. So, 1, 2, 3, 1. There's only 3 points left, and these are the big ones that I'm going to rape the shit out of. Enfys Nest, after the face reveal. I mentioned to you earlier how I did like Enfys Nest before the reveal. Now, but after the reveal, I fucking hated it. Because this movie came out just last year in 2018. March is 2019 is what it is now. This came out May 2018. This only came out 10 months ago. 10 months ago. I'm like, Enfys Nest was cool, had a cool voice, too, to be fair. But yet, after she took off the mask, it's like, you fucked it up. Not because it's a woman, but because it's not a surprise anymore if it's a woman. It's like, who cares? I'm like, and who cares? Now, and here's the thing. Enfys Nest, we got an idea of Enfys Nest before. Like, okay, this is some badass, even whether it's a man or a woman, it's like some badass adult who, looks awesome, looks cool, does shit and takes the shit and go and is smart. In the movie, she's played by Erin Kellyman, if that's how you say it. I'm pretty sure it's how you say it. Erin Kellyman, who looks no older than maybe 18 years old. Honestly, she looked like a teenager. Really? This is our main badass of the film? A teenage freckled girl? Really? And I'm not saying this is to be sexist, but you gotta get someone who fits. Honestly, Emilia Clarke probably would have fit better. Now that you think about it, she would have fit better. But no, they went with Erin Kellyman, who is freckled up, who does not look like she fits into Star Wars at all. And I happen to look up this actress on Wikipedia. This is her Wikipedia page. I'm reading it right now. Career. Kellyman appeared and raised by... Whoa, okay, blah, blah, blah. Give me the good shit. The role of Nest in Solo has been reported as the anti-hero we deserved, and the most important new character introduced in the movie. The role has been reported... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. The most Oh, this is so fucking stupid. This role has been reported to have given Kellyman global recognition. She's in a Star Wars film, of course she was. For the role, Kellyman had to go through 3 stages of audition. I'm sorry you had to go through that much in order to be completely shit on and to be in a forgettable Star Wars film. Wow. Goddamn. Just goddamn. I mean, wow. And I looked at the references, just to be sure. Because it was in that second line. The second line is where I read that. It's the role I'm looking at it right here. The role Solo has been reported as the anti-hero we deserve. That was reference number 4. Solo emphasis we deserve. Den of Geek. Den of Geek is not always the most reputable place to go to. 5. Emphasis the most important new character in the new Star Wars film. Screen Rant did that. Again, not the most reputable site. Sometimes they're good, other times they're not. The other 2 don't really care. But it's these 2, the first 2. That's what kills me. The anti-hero we deserve? Are you fucking kidding me? Han Solo's entire character in the original film was that he was an anti-hero. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't a good guy. He just did whatever the hell he wanted to do. Why wasn't... They made Han Solo the good guy, not the anti-hero, which is what he should have been. Most important new character introduced in the movie? Really? What about Beckett, who gave Han Solo the shit he needed to do stuff? What about Kira, who is this love interest for the character? What about Crimson Dawns of Dryden Voss, who, I don't know how interesting he may be. I enjoyed him better, I'll say that much. Most important new character introduced in the movie? Oh my god. Oh. And she looks like a 16-year-old girl playing Star Wars in a play. I don't know. Her acting, after she took off that mask, by the way, didn't help matters. Her acting honestly kind of sucked afterwards. It just wasn't that good. It wasn't that interesting and that appealing. And after watching Last Jedi, we know why this decision was to make her a female character was made. It was made so it can give us more women in power for the sake of having women in power, making men look kind of dumb in comparison for not figuring it out. It's so obvious what's going on here. It's so stupid. But even if you take the appraisal of this character, it still just isn't that good. And I could not take this character seriously anymore. If she was an adult, then played by a different actress, then maybe it would have worked. Not in this film. I I would have taken Jennifer Lawrence. At least Jennifer Lawrence knows how to kick ass. She's been Mystique in the X-Men films recently, and she was Katniss Everdeen in Hunger Games. She knows how to do her action shit. Not this chick. So, after that, we come to the other two things that I hate about certain characters in this movie. Look, I love Lando Calrissian. I liked him in this movie. But my lord, was it like pulling through fucking teeth when I found out that the direction for Lando Calrissian was to make him a pansexual. I am dead fucking serious when I say that. And if you're wondering what a pansexual is, basically, it's a person who will have sex with anything. You want to have sex with a man or a woman? Fine. You want to have sex with an animal? Go right ahead. You want to have sex with a rock or a robot? You can do that too. It doesn't matter if you got a penis or a vagina. He'll have sex with you either way. I mean, really? You couldn't do this with a new character? Look, with a new character, I wouldn't like it, but at least I'd be like, okay, brand new character, I could take it. They did this with Lando Calrissian, a character who, if you remember, he was never a pansexual in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. He was just a guy, he was a ladies' man. He spoke with a very elegant voice. He was a ladies' man. He spoke very, not highly of himself, but highly of his accomplishments. And it just did not work out well. It just didn't. Not with the pansexual shit. It didn't work out well in this film because they got most of the parts down. The elegantness, his a younger side of him, his overtly, capes and everything. I thought that was kind of funny, having him a shit ton of capes and making everything fashionable. You expect that. The pansexual part? No, L3. My baby. When they talk about the scene with Akira and L3, where they talk about apparently how Lando and L3 have sex, which is what they apparently do in their free time, even though they're not like boyfriend and girlfriend. They apparently have sex. I'm like, really? Did we really need to see this shit? What is wrong with you? And that isn't bad enough. That is further compounded by the fact of what the hell Lando wants to fuck. What he's fucking is one of the worst Star Wars characters in all of Star Wars history. Say what you will about Jar Jar Binks, but at least he contributed a few positive things in his film. Phantom Menace, I mean. Not L3. L3 goes to fuck everything up. L3 is by far the worst character in this film, and is one of the worst characters in all of Star Wars in terms of the films. So in terms of the film franchise. She sucks. She is absolutely horrible. And the CG for her is good, and that's about it. How she looks, how they put the design together is good, and that's basically it. I said that Kira and Erin Kellyman didn't do their job. The other person who didn't do their job well, who did not, I mean, was the person who played L3. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I saw behind the scenes, and out of all the people in the behind the scenes, because Phoebe Waller-Bridge was the one person I just did not like that much. Something about this person just did not rub me the right way, and it honestly shines through in the character. Because, well, what's the point of a movie? You want to make at least part of the character your own and put yourself in something. If you are not that good of a person like Brie Larson, putting yourself into another role only makes it worse. And that's exactly what Bridge does. She is annoying. First of all, she is annoying. She can be very annoying. The little tics about her are not funny. Her having a sexual relationship with Lando Calrissian absolutely is dog shit. The only positive contribution that she made to the movie was her death and putting the navigational system into the Falcon. That was the only thing that was positive about L3. L3 just sucked. And on top of that, the one thing I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed this, the one thing I noticed about L3 was that she's a droid, right? And I watched the behind the scenes of how they brought the character to life. Here's the thing. Foa Waller Bridge, and I think Ron Howard, by the direction part, they purposefully made the character a little bit more human. They didn't want to make it just another droid. They wanted to make it more of a human character. That's fine, but we already had that in C-3PO. If you want to do it again, okay, more power to you. But you have to make it more droid-like. I mean, did you not take any tips from the other droid characters of the films? Did you not? The only character who should move around and talk like a human that was a droid was General Grievous, because he had a human heart that was beating. He's the only droid that should have any sort of human style interaction. She is a droid, but yet she moves around like a human. Apparently that was the plan. That's so stupid, because you are a droid. No matter how mobile you might be, you need to move like a robot. One of the things why I love K2SO from Rogue One. I love that character. Mostly because he moved like a droid, but he was also funny. He had these little brain tics where he would say things that are droid-like and would do things. I would understand that. But just the way he would move around, the way he would, not always, but the way he would do sudden movements. Some of the aspects you could say moved a little bit like a human, but for the most part, he could still move like a droid. L3 moves nothing like a droid. The way her hand motions, the whole body motions, she does not at all compound what it means to be a droid in this franchise. She's basically a human wearing a droid skin, which as a matter of fact is exactly what the behind the scenes was. It was a human wearing a droid skin. It wasn't, getting into the mindset of being a droid and partially moving around like one, like they did with Rogue One, or getting into a droid suit like with 3PO. No, they made her a human character, and on top of that, they made her a human droid character that fought for rights of droids. Now, I don't mind the idea of her fighting for the rights of droids. What I do mind, however, has to do with the way they go about it. They're like, freedom, protest, and it's obvious. When you watch it, it's so obvious what they're trying to take inspiration from. They're taking inspiration from all the protest march that a bunch of dumb feminists do when they march in rebellion of Trump. Hang on. Oh, much better. But she does what they do. And like, protest, freedom, I love this Jew. Well, maybe not that part, but still, a lot of the tics she does, her attitude, the lines, the entire purpose of L3, aside from her death and contribution aftermath of her navigation system going into the Falcon, while the character is alive, she is almost completely useless. She's a terrible, terrible character. She's not written well. She's acted terribly. She moves around like a human instead of a droid. Every single thing about her, aside from her design, sucks. She's a terrible, terrible character. Jar Jar Binks at least contributed a couple positive things in Phantom Menace. This character doesn't contribute shit while she's alive. So that being said, you probably think I absolutely hate this film. Well, there are parts of the film I don't like. But very similar to Captain Falcon, there are plenty of things that are good about this film. I gave them, like I said, pros and cons were basically an even split list of 8 things for pros and 8 things for cons. So it kind of evens itself out to a 5 out of 10, which is what I'm going to give this film. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. It's enjoyable in the moment, especially, and it's got some good stuff in it. but it's also got some bad, cringeworthy things in it as well. Very similar to Captain Marvel. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. And so, there ends Star Wars Mania. Until next time, guys, I'll see you next time when I promise I'll get back to wrestling reviews. Next time, I'm going to review Lucha Underground Ultima Lucha Cuatro. I still haven't even watched Ultima Lucha Cuatro. So until then, guys, see you around, and be safe, and, well, you know what I say. Peace.